Welcome to Israel, the land where the great cultures, civilizations, and religions meet in the Middle East.
In this three-part series, we'll travel across the Holy Land of Jews, Christians, and Muslims. An epic journey that begins in the north of the country, through the historic port cities of Haifa and Akko on the Mediterranean coastline, and inland to the fertile countryside and biblical lands around the Sea of Galilee. We'll explore the south of Israel as well, traveling across the dramatic landscape of the Dead Sea and the Negev Desert, before ending our tour of the country in the holy city of Jerusalem and the modern metropolis, Tel Aviv. Come along with us as we discover this enchanting and enigmatic land in every way we can, from the water and up in the air, on the road and off the beaten track, on two wheels, even camelback.
So join us, I'm David Celdran. This is Executive Class.
It's my first time to set foot in Israel, and thank God I don't have to part the Red Sea, cross any desert, or battle my way to get here like the ancient Jews, Arabs, and Crusaders had to. A plane ride is all it takes these days, and for Filipinos, visa-free entry. Shalom.
Oh, shalom, welcome.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. My name is David. Very Israeli name, right, David?
Yes, David.
And you are?
I am Ricky, your guide.
Okay.
So welcome to Israel.
Okay, let's go.
Let's go.
Ricky Grunewald is my personal guide on this journey, and like many Jews of his generation, he was born outside the country, Uruguay, in the case of Ricky. His parents and their ancestors before them were Jews of the diaspora, the so-called Ashkenazi, who settled in Europe in previous centuries. The modern state of Israel is an infant compared to its biblical origins, founded in 1948 by Jews of the diaspora returning to their homeland from Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. The new nation that emerged after a brief period of British rule was carved out of territory from what was Palestine, land purchased in peacetime or fought for in war. The country's population today is overwhelmingly Jewish, with an Israeli Arab minority and an even smaller ethnic Druze community. That's not counting Palestinians, the Arab, Muslim, and Christians who live in what the UN calls Israeli-occupied territories of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, disputed lands outside the internationally recognized borders of Israel. The story is complicated and controversial, and clearly I'm oversimplifying the generations-old conflict. So I'll keep my political views to myself for now, because for the purpose of this trip at least, I'd like you to see the country instead from the perspective of a wide-eyed first-time tourist. Israel is pretty tiny despite its gigantic footprint in history and politics. But it's its size, plus a wide and modern road network that make traveling by car ideal. Just over an hour from Tel Aviv, where we landed, to Haifa, the historic northern port city. Haifa is Israel's third largest city and the center of its high-tech industry. And from above Mount Carmel, you get a fantastic bird's-eye view of its modern port facilities. Apart from its commercial value, Haifa's harbor holds symbolic significance as well to the modern Israeli identity.
Haifa used to be one of the main gates for the immigrants during the British Mandate, and after that, in 1948, with the creation of the State of Israel, many of the new immigrants came to Israel, to the land of Israel from here. Part of my family even, my wife's family arrived to the port of Haifa in 1945. I have friends of my parents came from South America to the Haifa port when they made Aliyah, and they arrived here.
What is Aliyah? Because it appears in a lot of the literature that has to do with the Jews coming back to the Promised Land.
Exactly, you describe it. Aliyah is coming back home. Aliyah means to rise yourself from the down part. We Jews believe that when you arrive to your own country, to your homeland, you arise. So Aliyah is a verb to mean to arise. So spiritually, we are now better or higher than we used to be outside the country.
Jews arriving through Haifa found a city with deep spiritual meaning to them as well, something they shared with the Muslim and Christian Arabs who lived there.
Mount Carmel is a good example of how the three Abrahamic religions, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, often revere the same holy locations. These three faiths believe that Mount Carmel is one of the holiest of mountains there is. It was here that the prophet Elijah preached. It was here where the Carmelite order was founded. And even the Baha'i religion, a global religion, has its most holy shrine over here.
It's a similar pattern of overlapping religious claims you see in many parts of Israel. Though compared to the violence of the past, in Haifa today, it's a peaceful rivalry.
Christians are a minority in Israel, only about 2% of the population. And of that population, the Orthodox Christians far outnumber the Roman Catholics. But here in Haifa, you really feel the presence of Catholicism.
The Catholic Carmelite monastic order that accompanied the Crusaders in the 12th century has managed to survive in Haifa despite periodic persecution over the centuries. The ascetic Carmelites, who named themselves after the Holy Mountain, built their monastery and church on the premises of what they believe was a prophet Elijah's cave. Rebuilt in the 18th century, the Carmelite Center continues to welcome pilgrims to its monastery and church, or curious tourists helping themselves to one of the best vantage points above the Haifa harbor. In the Holy Land, it's hard to tell the tourists from the pilgrims, since most holy sites are also tourist attractions. In Haifa, none more so than the massive Baha'i shrine and gardens that dominate the slopes of Mount Carmel. Founded in Persia but spread out across the world, the Baha'i adhere to a universal gospel of charity and love that incorporates the basic tenets of various faiths. The sect's founder, Baha'u'llah, considered himself a prophet and paid dearly for that claim. He was imprisoned and died in the port city of Akko, just up the coast from Haifa along the Mediterranean Sea. Both cities share a long history of interreligious rivalry, though the local Muslim, Christian, and Jewish communities have since learned to live together peacefully. In medieval times, however, Akko often changed hands between the Christian Crusader Knights and Arab Muslim armies, a legacy that's still visible in the city's skyline and streets. The citadel of Akko reached its zenith in the 11th century, when during the campaign for Jerusalem, the Crusaders from Europe made the seaport its capital city. Renamed Saint-Jean-d'Acre, the fortified citadel was home to legendary Crusader orders like the Knights Templars, the Teutonic Knights, and the Knights Hospitallers. Kings Richard the Lionheart of England and St. Louis IX of France were based in Acre during their fanatical conquest of the Holy Land.
The Crusader Knights were supposed to be holy men, but history proves they could also be cruel. But no matter your opinion of the Crusades or the overzealous behavior of the Crusaders, one thing we can all agree on is they built a beautiful and truly magnificent capital here in Akko.
The Crusader Citadel, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, was only recently unearthed in the 1950s. Excavations revealed a large subterranean city, with most parts preserved, no doubt, miraculously. Found intact underneath the Ottoman city were entire halls, tunnels, and crypts built by a succession of Crusader armies.
Who knows? We might find a Holy Grail here.
To this day, archaeologists continue to uncover new and exciting discoveries. This 350-meter-long secret tunnel built by the Templar Knights, an escape route presumably, was chanced upon in 1994 accidentally. The archaeological site is now a public museum detailing the life and times of the Crusades in Acre, until they were finally driven out by the Muslim Mamluk army at the end of the 13th century.
When the Crusaders finally left Akko for good, the city fell back into Arab hands and later into the hands of the Ottoman Turks. Today, Islam is still very much the dominant religion, at least in the historic quarter of Akko.
It's an authentic slice and a genuine taste of that traditional Arabic lust for life, combined with the vestiges of old Ottoman times and Turkish habits in this city. Scenes most travelers are surprised to find in what they imagine to be a singularly Jewish country.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you, man. Thank you.
It's an extremely rare scene indeed, so find time to take it all in and discover some ancient Arab pleasures that await you in Akko's market stalls and along its seawalls.
Images of uprisings, of attacks, and walls being built continue to color our judgment about the relationship between Jews and Arabs. No doubt those images are real, they do exist, but here in Akko it's a different story. Jews and Arabs have proven they can coexist peacefully.
It's not always so rosy, of course, and like any multi-ethnic society in the Middle East, divisions exist. But Akko and Haifa give us a glimpse of Israel not usually covered on TV news and broadsheets. When our journey continues, we travel inland to the heart of Galilee to visit the land of Jesus' youth and ministry, and up in the air to marvel at the breathtaking beauty of the Yezreel Valley. Welcome back to our journey across northern Israel. It's an early start for us in Galilee, and we're on our way to catch a hot air balloon ride before the sun rises over the Yezreel Valley.
That's my ride over there. Well, this trip is turning out to be a lot of firsts for me. It's my first trip to Israel. It's my first time to ride a hot air balloon, would you believe? Now, since this is the Holy Land, consider this my ascension to heaven.
Nothing miraculous with this, however. The principle of buoyancy produced by hot air is purely scientific, but a team from Skytrek make this complex operation look so easy. Once properly inflated, the crew allows the balloon to be lifted up, up, and away in the early morning breeze.
This is what 5,000 above sea level in Israel looks like.
Or to be precise, what the fertile Yezreel Valley between Mount Tabor and Mount Gilboa looks like from the air. This scenery makes the valley the most highly recommended flight zone in the entire Israel.
Now we're going high and over the ridge and to see the sunrise.
Israel's largest valley is its food basket as well, with orchards, farms, and vineyards as far as the eye can see. The land where the events of the New Testament took place is steeped in history and shrouded in mystery.
Over there where the shadow of the balloon is a place called Megiddo, Armageddon.
Or the last battle between good and evil, in a book of the Apocalypse at least. Though that's the last thing that comes to mind in landscape this inspiring.
The scenery is so romantic. The man over there is going to propose to his girlfriend in just a short while.
See you, Vic. Ciao.
Good thing she said yes, or the rest of the ride would be awkward for the rest of us. And while they hug and kiss, I'm just going to enjoy all this.
Now that's what you call a perfect landing. Beautiful, amazing, exciting. Hey, congratulations, congratulations.
Thank you.
No idea, right?
No
idea.
It was a surprise, big surprise.
And you chose the hot air balloon ride to pop the question.
To pop the question.
What did the sign say? Because it was in Hebrew, I didn't understand it.
It said, my love, marry me.
Oh, my love, marry me. And then right there and then, of course, you answered.
Of course.
The Skytrek experience includes a post-ride treat of local wine and delicacies from the farms around the valley. It's a tradition balloonists trace to 18th century France, when the unexpected sight of a manned balloon used to scare the daylights out of farmers.
King Louis came up with an idea that every pilot should always take a little gift to the local farmers that he's meeting on the ground, and what would be better than a local bottle of French champagne. So since then we stuck with this tradition, and we take bottles of champagne with us everywhere in order to have something to give to the farmers when we land if they hunt us down.
Of course, champagne can only be from France, so in Israel, a local sparkling wine will do.
Amazing, this Moscato is from Mount Tabor. It's a mountain very close by. We often associate Israel with very dry and arid land, but it turns out there are vineyards everywhere producing some really great wines.
Wine production in the area is as old as the Bible, but times have changed and so have the methods to make it. We're on our way to the Golan Heights, above Galilee, for a tour of the Golan Heights Winery, a cooperative owned and run by 600 local families. The volcanic soil, elevated sloping terrain, and abundant water supply of the Golan Heights are perfect for producing wine. The winery has invested in technology as well, and we're just in time to see how grapes make the journey from vine to bottle.
The grapes here have just been harvested from a vineyard in the Golan Heights. These are Merlot grapes, and they're passing through this optical scanner. It separates the really, really good stuff from the not so good stuff. Now the good grapes, the best grapes, they go through this and into the fermentation tanks where they'll eventually mature into some really fantastic wines.
After fermentation, the wine is aged in the cellar. Most wines do so in stainless steel, and only the best in wood.
So what I'm told is only 1/3 of the entire production is matured in this cellar, and they're matured in French oak barrels. What that means is these are the best of the best, the creme de la creme, the elite of the Golan Heights.
In the tasting room, I get to discover the difference. Yarden, their flagship wine label, is aged 1.5 years in oak. French varietals replanted in the Heights only 30 years ago are producing wonderful Sauvignon Blancs, Chardonnays, and surprisingly delicious Cabernet Sauvignons. I say cheers to that. Because of the generally arid climate, we forget Israel's long association with the Spirit. Yet wine is mentioned several times in the Gospels, most remarkably as the blood of Christ. The footsteps of Jesus can be traced all across Galilee. And perhaps the first of those steps were made in Nazareth, where the story of the Christian Savior begins.
Most cities in Israel are closely associated with Judaism, but Nazareth is one of those few places that's almost exclusively related to Christianity. This is the home of the Holy Family, of Mary and Joseph, and the events of the joyful mysteries.
The Annunciation is the first joyful mystery. Catholics believe the angel Gabriel appeared to the Virgin close where Mary lived, the same spot where the Basilica of the Annunciation was built. The original church was established in the 4th century, remnants of which are found in the property. The current structure, the 5th version of the church, was constructed in the 1950s. Some scholars are skeptical if the Annunciation took place here, or even at all, but it doesn't seem to matter to these pilgrims.
This is the spot where the angel Gabriel visited Mary and told her that she would be basically bringing to the world Jesus Christ, the Savior.
"Hail, full of grace, the Lord is with thee," said Gabriel to Mary, after which the Virgin replies, "Behold the handmaid of the Lord, be it done unto me according to your word." That's what Christians believe. Across the basilica is a church dedicated to Saint Joseph, Mary's husband, but because of the virgin birth, not exactly Jesus' father.
The crypt of the Church of St. Joseph. This crypt was identified by the Catholic Church as the workshop of St. Joseph, who was a carpenter, as we know. In other words, it was also his home, because in those days, you worked where you lived. This was the home of the Holy Family, where Jesus grew up in Nazareth.
Because many of these sites were only identified centuries later, it's hard to tell fact from fiction, truth from tradition. A few kilometers away from the Catholic Basilica is a Greek Orthodox Church of the Annunciation. It's the same event, yet two rival locations.
This is where they found a well. The well where Mary was, if you remember the Bible story, was getting water from. It was at that point where the angel Gabriel appeared to her. This is the only well in this area, and that's why the Byzantines, or the Orthodox Christians, believe it must have happened here.
Established ahead of the basilica by a century, the church was built over a stream that carries water to Mary's well. Perhaps to play it safe, or just out of curiosity. After visiting the Catholic Basilica a few hundred meters away, pilgrims come to the Orthodox Church of St. Gabriel to pray. If you recall the Nativity story, Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, not his hometown Nazareth in Galilee. But it's on the shores of the Sea of Galilee where the ministry of Jesus begins, in places like Capernaum, where Christ taught at the local synagogue, recruited his apostles, and spread the gospel. Called the sea by most, although it's actually a lake, this was where many of Christ's miracles took place, including the famous one of Jesus walking on water and calming the sea in the midst of a storm.
So much of the life and afterlife of Christ took place in this area around the Sea of Galilee, and this spot is one of many. It was here, they say, that he appeared after his resurrection. He appeared to his apostles.
The church is where Christians commemorate the spot where Jesus shared a meal with his apostles and reinstated Peter's primacy among equals.
You'll find a lot of pilgrims on the shores of the Sea of Galilee picking up rocks like these. That's because rocks have a special significance in Christianity. If you remember, in the New Testament, Christ told Peter, "You are Peter, and upon this rock I shall build my church." And with that line, Peter's primacy was established. Peter was the first pope, of course. So the primacy of popes since Peter.
Boat trips on the Sea of Galilee bring pilgrims even closer to the footsteps of Jesus, though I wouldn't recommend walking as he did on water. Others come to enjoy the scenery when the air is coolest and the slopes of the Golan Heights turn orange at sunset. And like a bolt of lightning from high above the deck that is, Galilee surprises.
This is the last thing I would expect in the Sea of Galilee.
Open Gangnam Style.
Gangnam Style.
Gangnam Style.
Turns out there's a bar mitzvah party on board. The coming-of-age ritual for Jewish boys turning 13 is celebrated by singing and dancing along to even the most unlikely music, including this unexpected one from the Philippines. The bar mitzvah, and in the case of girls, bat mitzvah celebration, continues with a feast in the port of Tiberias. I've always imagined something more solemn than an outdoor barbecue party in front of strangers, but you see, not all Jews are Orthodox, just as not all Christians or Muslims are conservative. But even for secular Jews, certain traditions are followed, like observing bar mitzvah and kosher, on holy days at least. Dex, like most restaurants in Israel, is certified kosher, a term for the set of dietary and food preparation guidelines mentioned in the Holy Book.
Okay, Ricky, we're gonna start with some fish. Later on, we're gonna move to some meat. Now, what exactly is kosher?
Kosher is a kind of food. Observant Jews cannot eat everything. They should eat certain food.
The rules prohibit all shellfish and fish without scales and fins. So, the salmon we're having, it's kosher. As for meat dishes, kosher prohibits mixing dairy. There should be no blood on the meat, no inhumane slaughter of the animal, and definitely no pork at all. Even wine should be kosher. But since most Israelis are secular Jews, you'll find many of them breaking the rules. At least that's what we found in Magdalena, an upscale restaurant offering gourmet, Arabic, and Galilean cuisine in Magdala, Mary Magdalene's hometown. The only rules followed by the chef: food should be fresh, local, natural, and flavorful. Unlike kosher, meat dishes are served with butter, along with cream and cheese. No wonder Magdalena is listed among the region's best. It turns out the cuisine of Israel is a fitting metaphor for the country itself. Multinational and multi-ethnic, Orthodox and secular, ancient and contemporary, all too often simultaneously. We'll continue to show you what this means when we drive south to the Negev Desert and the Dead Sea in the second part of our series.
And that's all for this part of our series on Israel. Our journey continues next week. Till then, I'm David Saldran, and thanks for watching.